Cliff Richard's story begins far from the British stages that would later define him. Born Harry Rodger Webb in Lucknow during the final years of British India, his earliest memories were shaped by warmth, family stability, and a sense of belonging that would soon be lost. As political unrest grew and independence approached, his family made the difficult decision to leave everything behind and return to England. The journey marked more than a change of location. It was a sudden shift from comfort to uncertainty. Post-war Britain was still struggling, rationing was severe, and opportunities were limited. Settling in Hertfordshire, young Harry quickly understood that the life he once knew was gone. This contrast left a deep impression on him, fueling both insecurity and determination. Music soon became his refuge, a place where identity could be rebuilt. Inspired by American rock and roll, especially Elvis Presley and Little Richard, he found a sound that allowed him not just to adapt, but to stand apart. The birth of Britain's first rock star. By his late teens, Harry Webb reinvented himself as Cliff Richard, choosing a name that carried strength and confidence. Alongside his backing group, later known as The Shadows, he recorded Move It, a song that shocked the British music scene with its raw energy. At a time when pop was polished and restrained, this record sounded urgent and rebellious. The reaction was immediate and overwhelming. Teenagers screamed, fainted, and filled venues with a level of excitement previously associated only with American performers. Cliff was suddenly hailed as Britain's first true rock and roll star, a symbol of cultural change in a country ready to move beyond post-war conservatism. Yet behind the confident image was a young man still searching for stability. Fame arrived quickly, but it brought pressure as well as praise. Cliff became the public face of a musical revolution, carrying expectations far larger than himself. His rise marked a turning point, proving British artists could lead rather than follow global trends. Faith, fame, and a difficult choice. At the height of his popularity in the 1960s, Cliff Richard made a decision that surprised both fans and industry leaders. At a large gathering led by evangelist Billy Graham, he publicly declared his Christian faith. This was not a private spiritual moment, but a highly visible statement that challenged the image of a rebellious pop idol. Many feared it would end his career. Some fans felt confused, while executives worried he would no longer fit the expectations of youth culture. Cliff himself struggled with doubt, wondering whether music and faith could coexist. For a time, he even considered leaving the industry altogether. Instead, he chose a path few had attempted before. He remained in music while openly living by his beliefs. This choice reshaped his identity, allowing him to move beyond performance into authenticity. Cliff later reflected that faith gave him confidence rather than limiting him. It removed the pressure to maintain a facade and allowed him to grow into a more grounded, resilient artist. Personal loss and quiet sacrifice. While Cliff Richard's career flourished, his personal life was marked by responsibility and loss. The sudden death of his father when Cliff was just 21 placed new burdens on his shoulders, leaving him to support his mother and sisters. Years later, he would face another prolonged hardship as his mother slowly declined due to Alzheimer's disease. These experiences shaped his sense of duty, but also limited his ability to pursue personal happiness. Romantic relationships struggled under the weight of fame, family obligations, and emotional distance. One particularly meaningful relationship ended when Cliff admitted he could not balance marriage with his responsibilities. Other romances followed a similar pattern, ending quietly rather than dramatically. Despite these sacrifices, Cliff rarely spoke publicly about his pain, choosing instead to focus on work and service. His resilience was admired, but it came at a cost. Behind the consistent public image was a man who often placed others before himself, accepting solitude as part of the price of his success. The love that remained unspoken. Among the relationships in Cliff Richard's life, one stood apart for its depth and restraint. In the early 1970s, he formed a close bond with Australian singer Olivia Newton-John after inviting her onto his television show. Their musical chemistry was evident, and a strong friendship quickly followed. Privately, Cliff developed deeper feelings, but circumstances prevented him from acting on them. Olivia was involved in a complicated relationship with Bruce Welch, a member of Cliff's own band. Bound by loyalty and principle, Cliff chose silence over interference. Years later, he acknowledged the emotional cost of that decision, describing it as a quiet heartbreak. Despite this, their friendship endured for decades. They continued to perform together, sharing stages and recording memorable duets. Their final performance together took place during Cliff's 75th birthday concerts. When Olivia passed away in 2022, Cliff spoke of her with warmth and respect, describing her absence not in dramatic terms, but as a silence left behind. Reinvention. After career doubt. By the mid-1970s, Cliff Richard faced a professional challenge he had never known before. For the first time, his music failed to chart, and critics began to suggest his era had passed. Younger artists dominated the airwaves, and Cliff's earlier image seemed out of step with changing tastes. Instead of retreating, he adapted. In 1976, he released Devil Woman, a darker, more contemporary song that surprised audiences and critics alike. The track became a major international hit, reintroducing him to a new generation of listeners. Industry peers praised the album, and respected musicians publicly supported his comeback. This moment marked a turning point, freeing Cliff from the limitations of nostalgia. Over the following years, he continued to evolve, blending modern production with his distinctive voice. His ability to adapt without abandoning his identity became one of his defining strengths, proving longevity in music required reinvention rather than repetition. Enduring success across decades. The late 1980s marked another remarkable chapter in Cliff Richard's career. Albums like Always Guaranteed demonstrated his ability to remain relevant in a competitive market, producing multiple hits and achieving platinum status. In 1988, Mistletoe and Wine unexpectedly became the best-selling single of the year, earning him another #1 hit decades after his debut. Cliff celebrated his 100th single by inviting fans to participate directly in choosing his next release, reinforcing the connection he had maintained with his audience. A major concert at Wembley Stadium followed, celebrating both his beginnings and his continued success. By the end of the decade, Cliff had achieved something unprecedented: #1 singles across 5 consecutive decades. This consistency placed him in a category of his own within British music. What once seemed like decline had transformed into one of the most enduring careers in popular music history, standing firm against industry resistance. In the late 1990s, Cliff Richard encountered resistance from the music industry once again. His release of The Millennium Prayer, which set a traditional religious text to a familiar melody, was dismissed by radio programmers who deemed it unsuitable for modern playlists. Despite limited airplay, the public response told a different story. Fans supported the single in large numbers, propelling it to the top of the charts. The success demonstrated the power of audience loyalty over industry gatekeeping. The song became one of Cliff's most discussed releases, not because of promotion, but because of its message and timing. It marked his 14th #1 single, arriving 40 years after his first. International success followed, reinforcing his global appeal. Rather than being a setback, the experience reaffirmed Cliff's independence and connection with listeners. It showed that relevance was not defined solely by trends, but by authenticity and trust built over decades, privacy, justice, and reflection. In 2014, Cliff Richard faced one of the most challenging moments of his life when a police investigation was publicly reported before any conclusions were reached. The situation caused immense personal distress, amplified by extensive media coverage. After a prolonged investigation, authorities announced that no charges would be brought, citing a lack of evidence. Cliff later pursued legal action regarding the handling of the coverage, and the High Court ruled that his privacy had been breached. The decision led to changes in how unproven allegations are reported in the UK. Although legally vindicated, Cliff acknowledged the emotional toll the experience had taken. It altered his sense of security and trust. Today, his story stands as one of extraordinary resilience.